Hi everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp and to the episode where we go through some interesting games. Now firstly, a big thanks to the sponsor of this video, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Yep, so we're going to pick 6 games that we've played this week or over the last couple of weeks, 3 each of course. But yep, we'll just go through the games and let you know a bit about them, to be honest.
Alright, what are some interesting games we've been playing? Do let us know yours as well. Well, let's find out. Before we begin then, a big thanks to the sponsor of this episode, Honkai Star Rail, which is available on a number of platforms. It's available on PC and mobile and it's completely free to download, and believe it or not, received a score of 9 out of 10 from IGN. It's a multi-platform space fantasy RPG from the makers of Genshin Impact, featuring an in-depth storyline, turn-based strategic combat, where you'll have to think carefully about your decisions and your own tactics will directly affect the outcome. As you'd expect from this studio, the artwork is incredible. Not just the visuals, the music as well. And I think one of my favourite characters is Jin Young, one of the Shenzhou Alliance 6 generals who leads the Cloud Knights of the Shenzhou Lawfu. On the surface of it, he's pretty laid back. However, just below, he's quite calculating and much more complex than you'd expect. Bit like Glen. Check out his ultimate skill on screen, which does massive area of attack damage. I highly recommend giving him a go. The game is out right now. Do check out the pinned comment and the link in the description so that you can download it and give it a try for yourself and try that character. Be sure to use our promo code, which is shown on the screen, and that'll give you 50 Stellar Jades. Let us know how you got on. I think you'll be surprised by how addictive this one is. Alright, first up then, I'm going to start with Library of Babel, which Glen and I have just been playing. Library of Babel, Library of Babel.
Yeah, I think it depends on your region really with that one, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So this one's very much inspired by 90s side-scrolling adventure games, isn't it? Adventure platformers.
Yes it is. In terms of the source material, it's based on a book, a very loose interpretation of the book, of the themes of the book at least. But yeah, in terms of the gameplay style, flashback or another world out of this world, again, your region depends on what you call it. It's got that inspiration for sure.
It feels like it's in a bit of an identity crisis, this one, doesn't it? It's torn between two worlds. On the one hand, you've got almost like a point-and-click adventure. There are items hidden in the scenery, there are small things you need to pick up, you've got to combine within your inventory. But then on the other hand, it has this stealth mechanic, and it doesn't feel like it quite knows what it wants to be.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, as we just said, it has that 90s adventure vibe to it, so you'll be platforming, pulling yourself up on ledges. Has that almost, it's not rotoscoped because it's hand-drawn, but it reminds you of that kind of style. But as you said, it also has this part of it where you're finding items or, as you say, looking to combine. And generally in a point-and-click game, you'll move from one screen to the next, left to right. So you don't ever have too far to walk until you find something you need. Whereas because this is more open world, that becomes a bit of an issue when you're looking for items. It is a strange hybrid that I do appreciate the idea, but maybe the execution is just a little off,
Yeah, I think this is... For me, it's a perfect example of what era of gamer you are.
Yeah. I agree.
I grew up playing games that frustrated the hell out of me. Yeah. There was a game called the KGB, and you had to investigate this thing in a hotel. And if anyone's actually played this, you've got to let me know in the comments, because it's so obscure. I don't even know why I got it. But yeah, you play as a KGB agent, and you had to fast forward and rewind time and gradually piece together loads of clues, and you had to write them down on a piece of paper, and it didn't tell you what you needed to do.
Yeah.
You were constantly dying. I never finished it either. So frustrating.
It's funny, isn't it? Sorry to interrupt you there, but things like Metroidvanias back, the early form of Metroidvanias, where you would be drawing out your own map or first-person dungeon crawlers, that sort of thing. These days, you'd scoff at that, wouldn't you? But it is just a completely different era, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one does have some redeeming qualities. I do like, obviously, the art style is absolutely beautiful. The narration and the story seems to be really well told. It's just, I think it can lead to some frustration, even with having the subheading of a stealth adventure. The stealth elements, by all accounts, are quite rudimentary, Get spotted, dead, restart.
Yeah, exactly. There's none of the kind of the yellow question mark that you get in most stealth games, where you get a moment to hide and then they'll search for you for a second and give up. It is literally just you pop your head down behind a box and you're fine.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you get shot and you die. It is a bit basic on that front. And even the point and click elements that we mentioned just now, there was a very early example in the game where you have to find a key card, isn't there, to get into a building. And you do a few bits to get to that point that you have, you acquire the key card. And you'd expect that's it. You've done the bit where you go on your little quest of finding what you need, and then you go in the building. But even then, that wasn't working, to the point where you were searching online to see if you'd missed something.
Yeah, felt like it was broken.
It did feel like it was broken. Then you have to turn the power on to the building, but at no point does the game tell you that you need to turn the power on,
Yeah, there's very, very little signposting in that regard, isn't there? It doesn't even have a dialogue thing that says, oh, this won't work, I need to do something else.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a strange one, this, because it looks lovely, and I do really enjoy it. I remember this coming out and including it in the upcoming, and I remember saying about this game specifically, I love it when game developers take an old book and they take the source material, and even if it is a loose adaptation, they either tell what happened next, or, you know, what side stories could have been told, or they just create it into something new and basic a game around it. I really do enjoy when that happens. I'd love to see that happen more often, but this one is just a little confused, I think.
I'd say so.
Right, the first game I'm going to talk about this week then is called Earth Atlantis. Now this is a shoot 'em up, but it's a non-linear one. It's quite an interesting concept. You know, generally in these games they're either vertical or horizontal, and the screen scrolls as you move along. In this case, it's set underwater. It's like a cataclysmic event has happened. 96% of the world is now submerged, you know, that sort of thing. And there are these huge biomechanical beasts that are under the water, and your aim is to take them out, and it is purely just that. You know, you're going from section to section trying to find these huge bosses and take them out. You know, it's quite interesting. It's almost like a boss rush shoot 'em up.
So is this Metroidvania underwater?
Kind of. I wouldn't go as far as to call it a Metroidvania. It is non-linear. There are sections that open up once you defeat one boss, and but I wouldn't call it a Metroidvania. No. It's a concept that maybe isn't executed quite as well as you'd hope, because it's a fantastically interesting idea for a game. It just doesn't quite come off. Because it's non-linear, you do have a map, to be fair, but it's a very vague map, and basically you'll have like a cross or crosses on the map as to where you'll find some of the bosses.
Okay.
Take those out and then it will put a few more crosses on, so you only have 2 or 3 available at a time, you know? And there are also other little parts marked on the map that are crates, and you can find power-ups in those crates. So you have your basic power-ups, which powers up your weapon. So you get more bullets or more shots per shot, if that makes sense. More bullets per shot, I should say. Or they start to shoot backwards as well.
Okay.
But then you get actual power-ups like homing missiles or like an electric attack.
All right.
And as far as I've seen, you can only find those in the crates. Now, if you die, you go back from, to the point where you're a puny little ship with, shooting out this sad little pea shooter, and you'll have to farm and kill a whole bunch of enemies to try and get the power-ups they drop to get to the point where you're strong enough to take on a boss. It's not even worth trying without those. And that does become frustrating. Dying, having to just spend 10 minutes killing pointless enemies to get to a point where you're strong enough to attempt the boss again. Yeah. And that's a fundamental part of shooters. Your R-Type, for example, you died, and it was almost not worth, if you were far enough into the level or whatever, it was like, well, it's no point going on because I can't get the amount of power-ups I need to take on the boss, It was almost good when those games took you back to the start of the level because there was no point trying to continue. But it's very tedious when you're on a boss, you die, and you're like, okay, I think I can do it next time. Back to the start point, or the waypoint. I've got to spend 10 minutes just looking for power-ups before I can even bother.
So do enemies respawn then?
At a ridiculous rate.
Oh.
Which is a blessing and a curse, because you need them to respawn to get the power-ups, but it's just a whole bunch of killing stuff for the sake of killing stuff to go and fight the boss again. And of course it could be that you lose so much health trying to get the power-ups you need that you're in no fit state to go and try to get the boss, or to kill the boss, and have to kill more enemies and hope they drop health power-ups.
I find it strange, with games like that, there should be a checkpoint just before the boss.
Yeah, no, there isn't, because it's not that sort of, because it's like an open area. It's never really a point of just before the boss. Do you know what I mean? Because you could go and look for a number of different bosses.
But even the options are like, retry the boss. Say you die on a boss, pops up with a box, retry.
But then if you retry,
thanks very much,
it would have to give you the power-ups.
Yeah.
You'd have to start at the strength you were when you entered. Because if it didn't, you'd be stuck in this horrible loop.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it's a game where it's a tough boss fight game, and it sounds like it is. It's like 20 plus bosses from what I just read.
It's 38. It's a huge amount. Yeah, I think I've beat 5 of them so far.
Or at least have that as an option. You can play it and that can happen.
Yeah. It's strange because I'm not saying the game is too hard. There are definitely some spikes. Some of the bosses are outrageous, and then there's a few that you'll breeze through, Yeah. So it does have difficulty spikes, but it's not that it's difficult. I just find the constant having to re-power up before attempting something that you were so close to beating tedious.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, but it is a good game. It's a decent game. Maybe good is too strong, and it's got a lovely art style. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's got like a sepia tone to it.
It's like a map that's been drawn.
Yeah, it's got a lovely hand drawn. Yeah, like almost like a pirate's map. Again, it's strange because as beautiful as it looks, and it does look beautiful. You'll see remnants of the old world in the back. It's like the Statue of Liberty's underwater. and things like that. It does get quite repetitive looking at that sepia colour or that sepia style as you're going through a lot of the same old passages or a lot of the same rocks, you know. Like, it's got a lovely background, there's some nice parallax scrolling, but effectively you're going through the same rock tunnels over and over again, and everything just starts to look very brown. But what I mean is that, you know, sometimes an art style can look lovely in a screenshot, but you play a game for an hour and it does start to just all look the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, next up then, I want to talk to you, Glenn, just you.
Yeah, go on.
About the Blade Runner patch that came out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But in general, I just want to talk about Blade Runner.
Yeah, always.
All right.
Never a bad time to talk about Blade Runner. Yeah.
So if you didn't know, there's a Blade Runner game on Switch that was originally came out on I originally had it on the PC. It was like the first CD game I had, and I was amazed that they fit all of this onto one CD rather than like 16 floppy disks.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a point-and-click adventure where you play as a detective. It starts out in a pet shop, you know, that old cliche, and then your investigation branches out from there.
Wait a minute.
Whoa.
What cliche have we ever seen where you start a pet shop?
Blade Runner.
Yeah, but that's the non-cliche. You start in a police department, or you start in a bar downtown, in a noodle shop where the rain's coming down. You next be in a pet shop. That old cliche.
At this moment, the pet shop boys just walk in, look at us in disgust, and walk back out.
Tell us
again.
we were always on their mind, and then just go. Yeah.
No, you're right. All right, that isn't an old cliche,
No.
but it is now.
That old chestnut.
Anyway, it's Blade Runner.
Yep.
That old cliche.
That old cliche, yeah.
And when it launched, it was in a horrible state. It's by a studio called Night Dive Studios. You know, they did the Shadow Man remake.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
But then this came out and it was just shocking. Like, you know, when you play remakes and you're like, hang on, this looks worse than the original.
Yeah.
And it was like that. It literally looked worse than the original. Now you can flick a button and go between the new and the old.
Oh, okay. Right. Yep.
And you can literally see that it's worse than the original.
Oh, really?
You flick to the old and it looks nice and grainy. So what they did with the new one is they put like a filter on it that smooths everything out.
Yeah.
Doesn't look good, man.
No. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because it wasn't an FMV game exactly, was it? But it looked like
elements.
One. Had a look of one. And if you try and smoothing out an FMV game, you highlight the flaws of it, don't you? You know?
Yeah. It's one of the only times where I'd say like up in the frame rate. Probably not the best idea.
Right,
so you'd have cutscenes that were like at 60 frames per second, and it just looks weird.
Yeah.
It makes everything look like obviously you don't have that 24 frames per second film quality anymore.
No, yeah, exactly. Which in a game like or based on Blade Runner, that film noir, you want it, didn't you?
Exactly.
Right.
I can't get past the cliche of the old pet shop.
Yeah. Bloody cliches in games. Sick of them, I am. But always starting in pet shops. No matter what game I play, turn it on, I start in a bloody pet shop.
New Pokemon, pet shop. Doom, pet shop.
Zelda, turned that on the other day. Well shocked when I started in the pet shop. No Hyrule, what's that about? Pets are us.
Oh man. There you go. I'm trying to think of a pun based on Tears of the Pet Kingdom, but I can't.
No. There you go.
Moving over.
So yeah, that's Blade Runner. Sorry, I put you off completely.
Totally.
Everything you were going to say that was going to be really
so poignant,
interesting and poignant. Yeah, no.
We had a laugh though.
Yeah, we did. That's what it's all about. Right, next game is called For a Vast Future, which came out very recently actually on the Switch, and it's an RPG. It's a turn-based RPG set in like a dystopian future. I could almost say cyberpunk again. But it's done in a Game Boy style, and that really appealed to me because as much as Cyberpunk has been done, you know, quite often these days, or is done quite often, there's something about seeing it on a Game Boy that makes you feel like it's almost a lost relic that you never got to play, you know. And it's based around a character, again, quite interesting. I'm not very far in, I'm about an hour in, so you know, long way to go, I'm sure. But the main character is in an orphanage to begin with. She's like one of the older children in the orphanage now, you know, almost at the point where I suppose she's going to have to leave soon and, you know, go on to things on her own. And it's set in this, as I said, dystopian world. There's been like a war that's ravaged everything. There's a totalitarian government in charge. And she's kind of trying to find her place in the world, and she makes a living by scavenging for scraps, you know, scrap parts, metal parts, whatnot. And she meets this cyborg who helps her out. She gets into trouble and she's attacked, and, you know, he joins your party in classic RPG style.
Can I just stop you there?
Yeah, go for it.
This is the plot of the new Star Wars movie. This is Rey.
Yeah, you're not wrong, actually. As I'm saying it, I'm like, yeah, I can see where you're going with that. But what interested me is that, so the cyborg, you help him out, and he wants you to go and help him find out who he is. And she agrees, but what interested me, because so far so by the numbers,
Yeah.
is that she agrees.
Cliche.
Very cliche. Yeah, no pet shops though. She agrees, but because her idea is to go there, but then capture him and sell him as scrap.
Oh.
And it's like, it's not often you get
Wow.
a grey, zone on a protagonist.
Yeah.
And I really like that idea. I was like, oh well, the game's kind of hooked me in. And so on top of that, so he joins you. I haven't got as far as other characters. I think you do get more people join you as you go. But just in terms of an RPG, it's a pretty decent one, to be fair.
Yeah, it looks nice.
It is nice. You have enemies on screen, so you can avoid battles if you wish.
Okay.
As far as I've seen, there are no random battles. There might be times where you kind of get shoehorned into having to fight because you can't escape, get out of the way. But turn-based combat, as I said. What's quite interesting is that you have an attack button. I haven't seen anything like magic or anything yet, so I don't know if that comes later. But you can add status effects to your bullets.
Okay.
Rather than having magic. So you almost have your fire and ice attacks through your bullets, You can craft as well. So you find the scrap and you can craft first aid kits and whatnot. And you can also put SP points, so you get XP and SP, into your character to kind of build them as you wish, into dexterity, into agility, into luck. Again, nothing out of the ordinary, but it's just put together in a nice package,
Yeah, this looked good. I don't remember it being too expensive either. I can't.
It was about £13, but it did have a launch day discount, but quite a substantial one. It was like 80% odd. I don't know if that's still in effect, because on the Switch, as I'm sure anyone will know that's ever been on the eShop, as soon as you buy something, it just says purchased, and you can't actually see how much it is or was.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
So it's a bit annoying, but it's, as I said, Game Boy style, and you can filter through or go through different colour palettes, And I started off with the default one, and then I switched to a very traditional green Game Boy one. It's not quite right. It's a bit too green. It looks like Slimer from Ghostbusters has kind of wiped his arse with it, to be honest, but you get the idea. It's a Game Boy game, but no, it's good. I enjoyed it.
You're old when you know the shade of green. Oh, hang on. Ooh, I wouldn't have done it that shade.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not quite right.
No.
Slimer's arse.
Exactly, yeah. We weren't going for Slimer's. We're going for more of an olive green, not Slimer's arse green, but yeah.
Perfect. Right, next we're going to talk about a bit of a hidden gem on Switch, and it's Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, you might not have heard of this one. It came out recently, but pretty decent actually, isn't it? Yeah, you should pick it up.
Not too shabby. Seem to know what they're doing. Yeah, I've got to say, I was playing this a lot last night, and I'm just loving how much it feels like a toy box.
Yeah.
I know you call them a sandbox game, wouldn't you? But I literally spent a long time building rockets of varying shapes and sizes, and I had a good time. And didn't do anything to do with the actual mainline game.
Yeah, I mean, I stayed away from anything promotional for this game.
Same.
Because I wanted to go in, cold and experience it. And this kind of building mechanic was quite a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I was also surprised, and again, we're avoiding spoilers, so don't panic. But I was also surprised by how much larger the map is by going vertical and underground. Specifically underground last night, I was like, oh my goodness, all right. This is huge.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very good choice, wasn't it? To how to expand a game world for a sequel, to a game that's been absolutely critically acclaimed. What do you do next? To go up and go down at the same time was a very clever choice.
Yeah, and there's a lot of new mechanics and things that I wasn't expecting. Now, we should say probably minor gameplay spoilers, because I want to talk about a few mechanics that I've seen that I enjoy. They won't tell you anything about the story, and you will have probably seen them 100 times before. But yeah, that warning is there. All right, so something that was happening last night that I didn't expect to see was you basically have like overworld battles. So there's this group of good guys, shall we say, that fight against the monsters.
Right.
And every now and then you'll be walking along and you'll see like half an army, like 20 of them stood on the side of a hill, and you go up and they'll be like, right, we're going to go and attack that fort over there. And this whole massive battle takes place.
Oh, really?
I don't know how they've even got the Switch to do that without exploding.
I wonder if that's almost like an overspill from the Hyrule Warriors game. Whether they've seen that happen and thought, I wonder if we can incorporate into the mainline game,
And it really works. Like, there's so much going on, because you'll have like all the goblins as well, all your troops, so there can be like 30, 35 people fighting at the same time, and it's brilliant. It really works well. It didn't slow down anything. It was I really enjoyed that little mechanic.
That might also be a a reaction, if you like, or in response to people that said the overworld was a bit sparse from the first game, you know, just to populate it a little bit more.
Absolutely, yeah. That's like something else I was going to say is, although it's as sparse in air quotes, and there's a bit of like the designs changed slightly, it feels like there's more to do.
Yeah.
It does feel like there's a lot more to do. Then you got the underground areas, and I found a bone horse last night.
Oh, right.
Do you remember those? Did you ever get a skeletal mount?
In
Breath of the Wild.
In the first one?
Yeah.
I didn't even know they were in it.
Oh, they're in it, boy.
Really? I completed that game. I remember like just the horses, the actual horses. So you can get
skeleton mounts.
Bone horses.
Bone horses.
Bone horses. Nice.
Oh, he's got a bone horse. Censored. No. Yeah, I crept up on it and I was able to mount it. And the good thing about the bone horse is you know that, what's it called? The gloom.
Right, yeah.
You can ride straight over the gloom.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was good until I'll head into because underneath you basically have to light torches. Mm-hmm. So in the underworld, as you light torches, it gradually expands your map and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I was busting it along on my bone horse, and then someone came along on a bigger bone horse and had me right off.
That's always life, isn't it?
It is life.
It's life's poetic.
Oh, it's
life
sad.
imitating art, isn't it?
It really is. And I've only got 4 hearts at the moment, so one hit from them.
Someone with a bigger bone horse. Don't forget that. All right. Every time you start getting a bit lippy.
But yeah, I am loving it. I'm loving that side. And I haven't even ventured up into the skies other than the start of the game yet. And those rocks fall down, don't they? And you can like reverse them and go back up on them. I haven't even bothered with that. This is, you hear it, don't you? Everyone's like, oh, it's a huge game. It's massive. I wouldn't say that about the first Breath of the Wild. I'd say it's a big game. Like, there's a lot to do. There's a lot of stuff. But in terms of like the core, like quantity, there's a lot. But this is a huge game.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, and again, it was nice to see them, or seeing that they have revisited, you know, the Cloud Kingdom idea, because obviously that was in Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
And that was a game that was kind of, I don't know, had a mixed reaction with fans when it first released. I think it's seen or it's appreciated a bit more these days. But it's nice to see them always revisit an idea. They're not scared to do that, you know?
No, absolutely. So yeah, let us know your moments so far in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and what you've been enjoying. Hopefully spoiler free, and we'll have a little chin wag.
Yeah, we are hoping to get a review out for this one, by the way, just to say that, a full review. But we just want to, play a nice big chunk of it first. The last game we're going to talk about is one we've talked about before in one of these videos, funnily enough, but we've recently completed it, and we just wanted to have a further chat about it because it's a game we really enjoyed, and that's Remnant from the Ashes.
Yeah, this has been a really good fun. It's our Friday evening co-op game, essentially. We sit down. Sometimes Asdin joins us online. And we just work our way through a little bit more of the game. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's that third person. It actually feels more like a shooter than it does a Souls game. I think that's fair to say, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't have even made the connection to Souls in any way in terms of the gameplay mechanics. I mean, there are some there when you stop and think about it, but yeah, it's pure shooting action, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's just that feeling of each time you play, you achieve something, because there's so many bosses in the game, and there's also so many optional bosses, as we discovered.
Yeah.
We spent, I think, like 2 hours maybe fighting that one on the bridge.
Oh, it was longer than that. It was a long time. Yeah, it was basically a whole evening, wasn't it? We stumbled across this boss, as you say, it was on a bridge, and there's almost like a boss each side of the bridge, and you have to micromanage so much, and it took hours and hours and hours, and we beat it. And then realised it was a side quest. And I think we got some armour, maybe, I don't remember now. We got something for it, but it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was a long time for a side quest.
And word of warning, if someone asks you for an item, consider that item might be needed elsewhere before you hand it off to them. Because you may find you anger the hardest boss in the game.
Yeah, that was brutal, wasn't it? Oh my word.
My goodness.
He came at us, didn't he? That was that was tough. But it's a very good game. Like, it's not my sort of game at all. It's the sort of game that I'd only ever play co-op.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd sit down and play this in single player, but I'm happy that we have, because it's broadens your horizons a little bit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a few we need to go back and finish off now, like the Zombie Army Trilogy ones and sniper games.
Yeah, no, really enjoyable. The last boss, again, I'm not going to say too much, but it is one where you kind of need to know what you're doing, otherwise you'll sit there making no progress for ages. You need to know there is something that has to happen, kind of thing. And that took a little while, but it wasn't maybe a little bit of an anticlimax, I think. It just seemed a bit too easy considering some of the bosses that we'd faced before. But that aside, yeah, great game. Going back to your base and, you know, gaining upgrades or buying new weapons or upgrading the weapons you have. The shooting mechanics were very solid.
Yeah.
I think so. Really, really enjoyed this game. I will say that the further you get into it in online co-op, I was playing in handheld on an original Switch. I wasn't using the OLED that I have. It was starting to chug, like, you know, it was starting to chug. So just bear that in mind. But to be fair, I mean, you can say that about quite a few games, you know.
Yeah. To be fair, that original Switch is barely holding on. Like, it's screaming in the background. The battery life's like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I like the last boss fight, and the reason I liked it was because it annoys me when games don't let you feel powerful by the end. And I mean, some of the damage numbers you do on the last boss, like, they make you feel like an absolute G.
Yeah, no, I get that. I agree on that front. I just wish that he'd then said, oh, you know, you're pretty tough. But so am I, you know, and just give a bit more back, if you know what I mean. But
no, we didn't need any more back.
No, but good game. Really, really did enjoy it.
Lovely, good stuff. All right, so that is the end of our games. Let us. What?
Sorry. Oh dear.
That's the
I
end.
just got.
Go on.
I'm sorry.
Go on.
I just got that David Brent office. Oh, you're odd.
No, let's agree that you agree with me. Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
Oh dear, sorry. I'll shut up now.
Interesting games. All interesting games. Let us know your interesting games. Glen's going to keep giggling. And yeah, buy your eShop credit on SwitchUp.gg and get your little tokens. Thanks very much.
Oh, sorry. What were we saying? Tokens.
Just
Yeah, tokens. Yeah. If you get those tokens, obviously by buying games off of there, you can then redeem them against future purchases. And then when you download that onto the eShop, you can then get your Nintendo points as well. So it's a win-win. Yeah. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Shush, I'm doing all right here. Take care and happy gaming.
Good stuff.